For most grassland people, straight ryegrasses reign supreme. But now we have seed mixtures that can actually match them on yield. Long-term lays that can match short-term ones, and clovers that can not only increase palatability but also boost production. That's just a few of the interim trial results from these plots here at Harper Adams University. But to take us to the heart of things, I'm joined by Francis Dunn of Field Options, who is running these plots. Right, Francis, tell me when you put these plots in, and particularly why.
We put these plots in the autumn of 2013. They're the second of a series of mixture trials we've done here at Harper Adams. We're essentially trying to challenge our methods of putting mixtures together and making sure what we do is outperforming the straight varieties which we use as controls.
And are they all under the same management regime of what fertilisers, for instance, do they get?
We have a fertiliser regime of using 250 kilograms a hectare of nitrogen. We stop putting nitrogen on if the soil moisture deficits get too low, as would a farmer, so they're in a fairly practical environment in that respect. We treat all the plots exactly the same. We take an early spring growth cut at the beginning of April to look at winter growth, and then we take a silage cut on the 20th of May, and then we cut at 1 month intervals thereafter.
Okay, Francis, let's just go and have a look at the straight ryegrasses, if we may. Now, Francis, these are your ryegrass trial plots. Now, most people would go for straight ryegrass and think it was the crop to choose to get the highest yield, particularly the Italian. So just tell me about the yields on these plots and what you've got in them.
Right, okay, we start off, we have 3 control varieties: an Italian Gemini, a tetraploid Italian ryegrass, a hybrid ryegrass solid, a perennial ryegrass aberdart, and a mixture which is similar to one of our commercial mixtures, and they are the 4 controls. In the first year, the highest yielding of the straights that are used as controls is the Italian ryegrass Gemini.
And what did that do in terms of yield?
That did 16 tonnes of dry matter. The perennial and the hybrid ryegrass did about 12 tonnes of dry matter a hectare.
Now, Francis, this is one of your mixtures, which is hybrid 3B3 with white clover, and this outperformed the straight hybrid and Italian ryegrass.
That's correct. The hybrid 3x3 has produced 2.5 tonnes of dry matter a hectare more than the control varieties of Gemini and solid. So we feel confident that this is as high a performing mixture as the Italian ryegrass, but it also holds quality over a longer period, so produces or can help producing higher quality silage.
And were you surprised by that yield?
I was pleasantly surprised by that yield. In the first series of trials we did, this mixture actually underperformed against the controls. We've reformulated it and now it's beating the controls. So it suggests that testing mixtures is worthwhile.
And how long could you leave this lay down for?
This mixture is designed, it contains persistent hybrid ryegrasses and intermediate perennials. It's designed to last for 3 years. It can probably last 4 years in higher rainfall areas and will remain at a very high level of production. Already now in its 2nd year, it is still outperforming the Italian and the hybrid ryegrass.
So is the message we take from this that some of your longer term mixtures will perform as well as the very short term mixtures?
I'd classify this as a relatively short-term mixture. It's outperforming a 1 or 2 year lay on both yield and quality, and we do have the same thing with our longest term mixtures, which are in some cases outperforming the Italian ryegrass already in the 2nd year.
So would you say people need to bother with short-term lays, mixtures?
In a word, no. I think there's an awful lot of potential, and most of the breeding improvements are going on in hybrid and perennial ryegrasses, and that saves you having to plough too often. The Italian ryegrass is maybe there for a 1 year or a catch crop situation. Beyond that, I think the economics of it are challenging.
And I see you've put clover into this. Now clover, people will know, will improve the palatability, but it also puts nitrogen down, doesn't it? How much nitrogen will that add to the crop?
If we have a situation like this with about 25% white clover in the ley, it's probably producing 150 kilograms a hectare of N. It improves palatability, it improves the mineral profile of the sward, it improves the drought tolerance of the sward. The seasonal growth of clover, as you can see today in July, is very strong. And in the background you can see plots without clover in, and they're not looking as strong. So there's a number of reasons for planting clover other than just the nitrogen factor.
But on the downside, people would say in high nitrogen situations, clover's a bit of a pain. It won't stand the competition, and also weed control is virtually impossible in those leys.
I would, starting with the weed control, I would consider we should control our weeds before we plant our grass as a primary thing, using break crops. There are herbicides which control a wide range of of weeds in an establishing clover ley, and we should invest in them. The clover response on this site is extremely high. So where we've got a mixture without white clover in it and a mixture with white clover in it, we've already seen a 3 to 4 tonne per hectare of dry matter improvement or increase in yield over an 18-month period, and a further increase again if we use red clover.
And we'll come on to red clover in a moment, but that increase in yield is impressive, is it not?
Well, it easily compensates for the cost of the herbicide that's involved, and I think people should rethink their strategy as far as using clover, even in intense situations. Here we're using 250 kilograms of N per hectare. It's not at the highest level, but it's a relatively high level.
Okay, now let's go and have a look at the red clover plot, if we may, Francis. This is for mowing only, is it?
This is very much red clover is a mowing species. You can use it for grazing at the end of the season for finishing lambs, but primarily it is a cutting species. This mixture in this situation without ryegrass is 2 tonnes a hectare per year lower yielding than with red clover in it. So the red clover is adding 2 tonnes of dry matter.
Which is pretty impressive.
Very impressive, and as you can see again, very drought tolerant. And with people looking for self-sufficiency in protein, saving on imported soya, red clover has got a lot of potential on farms.
Right, thank you, Francis.